Welcome to Students of Aging, the podcast that honors the incredible journeys and stories of seniors growing older. Tune in and become a part of our community as we redefine what it means to age gracefully and purposefully.
Welcome to the Students of Aging podcast, division of the Wood Green Community Services Senior Advisory Council, and it's brought to you via a grant by the federal government. Today we're going to be talking about the benefits for seniors of having fur friends in their lives. So that can be cats, dogs, bunnies, all sorts of different animals and pets that through their lives are very enriching and can help them with things to do with mental, physical, and building community. So I'm very happy today to introduce two other of the council members, Nadia Wilson and Rachelle Desrosiers, and myself. So we're just going to have a very informal chat today about how great it is to have pets in our lives and how much it has brought to our lives. So I guess what we should start with is, I know you both have had a lot of experience from a very young age with pets. So Nadia, do you want to tell us about your first pet experience?
Well, my first pet experience began when I was a very little girl, sick and quite depressed, and my parents thought that it would cheer me up to have a little puppy in bed with me. And I think puppies are so affectionate, so sweet. And I think that's where my love of animals began, right from early start in my childhood. And it's never stopped.
Yeah, can be a wonderful comfort. And Rachelle, what about you?
Mine again started when I was very young. I had my first dog when I was practically born, and my father didn't like cats, so I grew up with dogs. And my father loved Tiny Tim. So one of our Chihuahuas named Tiny Tim, Tiny for short.
Now, Tiny Tim, like tiptoe through the tulips, Tiny?
Tiptoe through the tulips,
Tiny.
but he did not sing.
Ah.
My father or my dog. And ever since then, I've loved animals. I've had gerbils and hamsters and rats and ferrets. And the only thing I never got was a snake. I thought about it.
Yeah. I'm glad she didn't go for the snake.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, Rachelle and I are married, so sometimes we're going to be talking about the same pets because, of course, they were and are our pets.
Mutual
pets.
Yes.
And as for me, my love of pets started with, this is where I get out the very tiny violin. We were so poor as children, we did not have pets. And I don't think my dad liked them, and my mother was always very concerned about them. So anyway, my first pet was a caterpillar named Fifi. And Fifi was in a glass jar with the holes poked in the top of the glass jar. And Fifi even survived a car crash. So it was a very resilient caterpillar. But caterpillars don't last very long, so I didn't have a very long experience. But I've had cats and just cats since I was like 23. So for quite a long time now, so we're very involved in that.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, as we're talking about pets, like, what do you see as the benefits to having an animal in your life?
Oh, I think there's many benefits. First of all, you have to devote time to the animal. You have to feed it, assuming it's a dog, or you feed it. You have to walk it. So you're involved in looking after the animals. So you're not as concerned and worried about your own stuff. The animal comes first. And it's a great exercise, of course. Walking a dog forces you out, even if you don't feel like going out. You have to get dressed. You have to get out. Once you're out, it becomes not only a walk with the dog. It becomes a social thing because people stop to talk to you. They want to pet the dog, and if you're passing another person with a dog, you want to pet their dog, and I find that it's a great way to meet the neighbors. I know that when I first moved in, came to live with my husband, he had been in the property about 2 years, and I came with a dog, and I started, walking through the neighborhood. And he said to me a few weeks later, "In 2 weeks, you have met more people than I have in 2 years.
And I think it does give it such structure to your day too. So as you're saying, gives you that reason to get up in the morning because someone is depending on you to get up to walk them, or in a case of a cat, to get up and feed them, and to have that interaction. So Rachelle, this might be a good time to talk about the feral cat colony, because when you were talking about community, which I think is one of the main reasons that having pet ownership, even if you don't have ownership now, in the past, and being friendly to the animals in the area really does build community in the community.
It does.
So
we have a feral cat colony that's registered, and we at one point had 22 feral cats in the neighborhood. We're down to 2, but we have a huge backyard. We never use it, because I like to sit outside. We meet neighbors. They come up and said, "Oh, you have some great cats." And we're like, "They're not our cats. They're the feral cats." And at one point when we had 4 of them, they would sit up on each part of the level of the stairs. And neighbors would come by, and like you, people I never knew in the neighborhood, and they would come by, and it was wonderful. And they're 14 years old. There's only 2 left at the moment. And most of our neighbors have actually adopted some of them, including us. And it's been wonderful because you see people that you didn't know. And it's a great social event as well. And I found it very loving of the neighbors, of us, and of the cats. They're not your usual feral cats. They let us pet them, and it was wonderful as a social idea.
And I think the street that we lived on really has all come together as a result of having cats in the area and being part of a feral cat colony. And for people who aren't familiar with trap, neuter, and release, what you do is you nab the kittens when they're little. You take them to a vet if you're working with an actual registered charity, and we're a registered colony. And then they're neutered, so they can't make any more cats, and then they're released back into their area where the people on the street take care of them. In our case, we're still taking care of 2 of them for 14 years now. But the lovely thing too that's so loving is, like yesterday, there was a whole chain of email because we're concerned about one of the cats. So you have everyone talking about it. And when there have been vet bills for the ferals, we pass the hat so that people all sort of contribute into it as well. So although we all have our own pets that live inside, they're really just as devoted to the care and welfare. And I do think we've all gotten to know each other so much better, and it's been a result of the fact that we were involved with the cats.
And we're all of different ages, right from Tammy, who's the register of these pets, and up to Lynn, who's in her 80s.
Yeah.
So we've all taken care of these cats for 14 years, and from different ages. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
And when they do the trap, neuter, release, it's also covered. Mm-hmm. So there's nobody paying for it. It's covered. But if there's any problems with the cat needs surgery or the cat needs some sort of other care. We had a wonderful little cat, Abby, who had dermatitis. So we would call her Scabby Abby. And we all got together and put the money in a hat, and we got her well, and she was then adopted out.
Yes. So, and I would never have thought that this cat would make it. And these are cats sometimes that would not have any other sort of opportunity to make it any other way, which is really quite something. Yeah. And what happens sometimes too is that Rachelle and I became involved with a cat. It was actually one of the sisters of the last 2, and the cat's name was Baby, and Baby was called Baby because Rachelle could hold the cat like a baby, and did this for many, many years. And Baby became ill, and we were told that I think we took it to one of the shelters or something. We were told that to put the cat down. So, but what happened was Rachelle was so attached to this outdoor cat that you decided to give it palliative care in the
Absolutely.
house, in the downstairs bedroom, and the whole neighborhood paid for antibiotics, and then the cat got well. So of course now we had a well cat. So anyway, baby ended up, we passed the hat again. We had like the Save the Children Fund picture of the cat that one of the other ladies on the street put together a GoFundMe to pay for dental surgery for the feral. And then we paid the rest, and baby lived out the last 18 months of her life in our house, which was really quite something.
Which was lovely.
Yeah.
Well, when I lived in the West End, there were a lot of feral cats in the neighborhood, and they were constantly having kittens. So my initiative was to capture these cats, take them to the vet, and have them neutered, and then released. Unfortunately, I lived in a neighborhood where there wasn't that much sympathy for cats, and so most of the expenses were paid by me, but still. And I remember once going on a date with this guy, and he picked me up, and there were like 3 cats on the veranda recuperating. I would leave them in the house until they recuperated, and when they were well, then I think that sort of discouraged me.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange, you know. His literacy. So anyway, but who cares? You know, I cared about the animals more than about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone would get very far if they didn't like animals on our scale. And we always, when someone new comes in and they go, oh, there are so many cats in the area, I immediately go, isn't it wonderful? We're part of this program, and so they can't make other any more cats, and how wonderful it is, and they really pretty much have to go along with it, sort of thing. So yeah.
In my 20s, this very good guy comes along, a scientist, so he would have made a good boyfriend, essentially. And so he sits down on my couch, and I had a dog then, and the dog, you know, dogs are very jealous. So the dog slips in behind his back on the couch. And then the swine it was kind of slightly heavy, right? He leans back and squeezes the dog like this, you know, to make it very uncomfortable. So of course, you know, eventually the dog jumps down, and he was finished. I never saw him again. He actually invited me to a dance, and I said no, forget it. So that was the test, you know. They didn't treat my pets properly. They were out. When I met my husband, the gentleman from Scotland, I had 4 cats and a dog.
Wow.
And I was known in the neighborhood as the cat lady. And it didn't faze him at all.
Yes.
Just carried on, and he was wonderful because he was actually a cat person. He accepted all my pets, and that was it, you know, and I accepted him.
Well, Rachelle has a mug that says, you say crazy cat lady like it's a bad thing. You know, like it's like,
well, that's what people thought, you know.
Yes.
People do say it that way, you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And you know, what I think is interesting is as we age, and sometimes you have to make decisions about what's going to happen with your pets. And while I was doing a little bit of research, because I knew we were going to talk about this, one of the things they brought up, which I personally, we don't have anything in our planning, is what happens to the pets if something happens to us. Because as you get older, eventually, you know, what is it? Not dying isn't an option.
Yeah.
You're going to go. So it's what you want to have in place is like what's going to happen to your pets. And a lot of people supposedly leave money in their wills, sort of like the same way you would leave a trust for your children to take care of your children for their lives. You leave money to the person, you know, I leave money to my niece who's going to take care of the whatever, to be able to not be out of pocket for the expenses of the pets. Something of that nature.
You also have to remember we as an older generation, to ask the person before we leave the money to them.
Oh, yes.
That they are willing to take care of the animal.
Yeah.
We can't just say, well, our niece, she'll take care of the animal without asking a person.
Yeah. And I was talking to a woman, a friend of mine yesterday, who's involved with a pet rescue outside of Toronto. And I was saying about how when you get to a certain age, it's difficult to adopt a pet, like if you go to different places because of your age. And she was saying it really depends on if you're willing to adopt an older animal. Yes. Because in a lot of cases, they get older animals in rescue because the person who there was their owner was now in a long-term care. There's no one else, or they've passed away, something like that. And then you've got like a 10-year-old dog or a 10-year-old cat that's in a shelter, and people wanted a kitten, you know, they want the joy of a kitten. So as you're older, those are possibilities too. Or smaller animals too.
Well, I find my last dog passed away in 2019. I was almost 80 then, I think close to 80, and I just didn't want to undertake another dog. I just for the reason that you mentioned. Yeah. You know, what would happen to the dog if he survived me? I never really trusted anybody to look after him properly. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people say they will look after a dog, and then once you're gone, you don't really have control over anything.
Yeah,
correct.
So I guess what I've done is I dog sit, and that's how I get my dog fix. So I've been dog sitting for a few years. Currently, I dog sit. I don't know if I can. Can you get this in the camera? I dog sit Daisy. She's a cockapoo and very affectionate. I pick her up at lunchtime, and then I take her home to my place. And then the owners pick her up in the evening. And so it's great for me. I have her company, but I don't really have the full responsibility of looking after her. But not only that, the owners have become very good friends of mine. So whenever they have a social function or something, I'm always invited.
Yes.
And so that's the social benefit. I mean, besides having the dog. And I've done that with other dogs in the past as well. So that really works for me.
I think it's a real win-win when you can develop that relationship with someone in the neighborhood to do something like that, because it's good for the dog, it's good for you, it's good for them. It's really a great sort of situation.
They don't have to worry that somebody's taking care of their dog or not, because they have you.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's a great thing for you because you're probably helping them, so they know they have somebody trusted enough to take care of.
On a daily basis, it's great looking after her. And I enjoy it.
And that's a very interesting thing that you just said, because I know when we had someone who was older, was a pet sitter for us for quite a long time, and she was about 10 years older than I was, and we always said, and what happens if you're unwell, or what happens, so that there always is that backup plan, so that even with the younger person, we have a younger person who now pet sits for us, and we do the same thing. So what's the backup plan if you're sick and you can't come, or something of that nature?
The whole neighborhood has a backup plan. Because I'm a cat sitter for 3 other people.
Yes, that's true.
Great.
Yes, so that way, if I got ill, I can call so-and-so, and then they would be the backup. And if that person isn't, then there is a third backup or a second.
Could I ask you, do you take the cats to your home, or do you go?
No.
Last year we made a film called When You Find the One, and the star of the film turned out to be our orange cat, Pumpkin. And we flirt. Absolute flirt. No one's paying enough attention to you, right? But Pumpkin, the little bum, he was on the other side of the door. We were on the porch, and we could hear him trying to get out, thump, 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 thump on the door. And we heard this click. And I'm always on Rachelle's case about, do you have a key? Do you have a key? Do you have a key? And I said, do you have the key to the house? No. No. I said, you're joking with me. No. So, but because the other cats say to us, because we had the neighbor had a key, we then went to the neighbor and said, you're not going to believe this, Pumpkin locked us out of the house.
Because she had a key, because she's our cat sitter.
I only have key arrangements with this family that owns Daisy.
Even as people are aging, and sometimes when dementia becomes an issue and people are unable to take care of pets anymore, what you can do is there's always the alternative of a stuffed friend. So this is little Bub. Little Bub will talk for us.
Well, she meows.
She meows. She meows. I did not bring my mother's stuffed animal, but my mother had Alzheimer's, and one Christmas when she had Alzheimer's, I gave her a bear, Fluffy, called Fluffy. And Fluffy and she would sit on the couch every day and watch Jeopardy, and it was like her little companion. Yeah. And then when she went to the hospital eventually, Fluffy went to the hospital too, except Fluffy somehow always seemed to be upside down. And she would pet Fluffy's backside all the time. And Fluffy was there with her when she passed, So even sometimes, and it was strange, I'd never heard her say that she had a dog, and she had this hallucination when she was in the hospital that there was a dog sleeping at the bottom of her bed. So it shows you how pets and the animals can be so comforting, even in stages where, and it doesn't necessarily, when the time comes, it can't be a real animal. It can be a stuffed one that still can provide that comfort, I think, to them.
You're right. You're absolutely
right.
Yeah. Yes. My mother was in a nursing home as well, and when I used to visit her quite regularly, and on the way to her room, I would pass this lady, stone-faced, just staring straight ahead, paying, no concern about anything else. Very serious. She was in a wheelchair. And I'd pass her and I'd say, "Hi, how are you?" She never spoke to me. So this would happen several times in a row. And then I thought, oh, poor woman. She must have some sort of dementia. She can't talk. So one day I came to the hospital and I had my little dog with me. I passed her chair, and all of a sudden, big smile on her face.
Yeah.
The woman could talk. She smiled, she wanted to say hi to the dog, she petted the dog, and so on. So just, seeing the dog released, I guess, all kinds of memories for her. Mm-hmm. So she was, very different from what I imagined because of seeing the dog.
Because I know, and sometimes the long-term care places will have dogs that come in and you said cats. You had
now as well.
Heard of cats as well that are sort of like pet visitors. Yeah. And now I'm hearing that a number of long-term care places, depending on, a lot of them are probably private, so you can bring your pet with you. Although we did, when we were looking for a place for my mother, this was more than 25 years ago now, there was a place where this woman, they allowed her to bring her cat. She was in a place where she needed heavy care because she was both mentally and physically frail. But her cat was the only family that she had. She had no friends. She had no relatives. So they let her bring the cat. And the staff were good about the litter box and the litter box and all that sort of stuff. And then the cat would stay with her on the bed and stuff like that.
Also with the dogs and helping seniors, my mother just turned 89. My sister and brother-in-law work full-time, and their dog, Davidson, is with Mom all the time. So that's Mom's daytime companion, and they get along wonderful. Actually, Davidson loves Mom probably more than my sister and brother-in-law because they're together all the time.
Well, what kind of a dog is it?
A black lab.
Oh yeah, they're very affectionate.
Very affectionate.
Very big,
and very, yes, they are.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to the door and Mom doesn't know, of course, he barks all the time.
Well, there have been studies that people who as seniors have animals or have animals in their lives have less depression, their health can be better, they live longer, all of these different things, because it does, that all of these things that we're talking about that are so good for both your mental and physical health by having them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story. 2010, I had developed epilepsy, and so I was no longer able to work. At that point, we had a very older cat, Snooky, who had full of arthritis. And we have a basement where I normally keep the cat litter, and that's my job for the house is. And unfortunately, we couldn't have her downstairs, so we had to have her cat litter on the main floor. And what I didn't know is as I'm walking up the stairs to the main floor, I ended up having a seizure.
Oh,
So literally, Barb, thank you for saving me from face first in the cat litter box.
She was literally clearing out the litter box, and I looked over, and she was stooped over. I did like this, and she's not moving. She's not moving. So I did the old Rachelle had a lot of seizures initially when she had epilepsy, and so I ran to the other room and I grabbed her around the waist, but she's still frozen in place like this so that she wouldn't fall into the litter box.
But again, thankfully for those cats, they really helped through my
yeah, definitely.
getting better. Because, you know, Barb was a constant companion, but no matter how sick I was and with all the seizures, those cats were there to soothe my ailments and to really help. I went through a severe depression because I no longer could work, and it was just the why me attitude that I had, and those cats still loved me no matter how ill I was.
I think that that's the relationship between a person and an animal is so different from any other relationship, so that I always say to people when someone's pet passes away too, recognize it the same way you would recognize it if a member of their family passed away. So think about sending a card, think about sending a donation to a pet charity, something of that nature that will, because it really is a member of their family, and in some cases a family member that they're much closer to because they sleep in your same bed, they're with you every day. Like it's very hard to get over
They're
that.
very appreciative when you come home.
So is there anything else we want to talk about in pets?
I guess I'll just mention something from my experience. My husband passed away in 2016, and so, but I still felt I was part of something because I had my dog.
Yes.
And then the dog passed away in 2019, just before Christmas, and I thought, this is totally devastating. I'm gonna have a horrible time. I wasn't looking forward to Christmas at all because I have a very small family, and who are actually spread all over the world. They're not with me, so I was really, really quite sad. And then, almost a miracle, former neighbors of mine came by and said, "Listen, we're going to Brazil. Do you think you could look after our dog for 3 weeks?"
Yeah.
And it was basically like a miracle. It still makes me cry because I was so happy to have that dog. We still have the video of that dog. She's passed away now, and I'm the one who keeps the video. The owners don't have it, but I keep it because I remember how really the dog made my Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it made me, it was just wonderful. So that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that shows how important they can be, really.
And they're so intertwined in your life and what you do. Like every year we put up the Christmas tree and the cats up the tree, right? Like before. It's very good. Once there's ornaments, they don't do that.
No.
Or they'll sit underneath it until there's presents underneath it.
Oh, yes.
It's
Which they think the presents are for them.
For them. And because it is that they are intermixed. But I think that's such a lovely story about how that dog helped you so much.
Unbelievable. I mean, if I had a big family, maybe it wouldn't have mattered that much.
Yeah.
I think it still would have mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hate it when people just say it's just a dog, it's just a cat. It's
No,
like, and I know when Rachelle did first develop epilepsy, I think having that in the neighborhood too, like knowing that the feral cat colony, that when you weren't able to work, the feral cat colony was there, there's something you could do. As we age too, there are lots of rescues and that are always looking for people that will help, like in terms of any number of things. Like I know that There's one that has kitten cuddlers, like they want people to come and cuddle kittens, which sounds like a great gig to me.
I would probably want to bring 1 or 2 or 3 home, though.
Yes, that's true. I always joke with Rachelle that a lot of people who are listening to this podcast will know that there's a poem about the Rainbow Bridge.
Just this side of heaven is a place called Rainbow Bridge. When an animal dies that has been especially close to someone here, that pet goes to Rainbow Bridge. There are meadows and hills for all our special friends so they can run and play together. There is plenty of food, water and sunshine, and our friends are warm and comfortable. All the animals who have been ill and old are restored to health and vigour. Those who are hurt or maimed are made whole and strong again, just as we remember them in our dreams, days and times gone by. The animals are happy and content, except for one small thing. They each miss someone very special to them who has been left behind. They all run and play together, but the day comes when one suddenly stops and looks in the distance. His bright eyes are intent, his eager body begins to quiver. Flying over the green grass, his legs carrying him faster and faster. You have been spotted, and when you and your special friend meet, you cling together in joyous reunion, never to be parted again. The happy kisses rain upon your face. Your hands again caress the beloved head, and you look once more into the trusting eyes of your pet, so long gone from your life, but never absent from your heart. Then you cross the Rainbow Bridge together.
I always joke with Rachelle, she's had so many animals in her life that it's going to be a stampede. They're going to flatten her because you've just had so many.
I won't
You won't
mind. Not at all.
Well, it's funny. I dream about that too.
Yes.
We all think about, I think most people think about, so what is that happens after we die? Do
Yeah.
we live on? Do we see
Yeah.
our relatives and so on after life, or is it just the end?
Yeah.
And I always think, well, I hope if we do live on, I want
Yeah.
to see all my pets.
Yeah.
Yes. So you'll have a stampede too, right?
Yes.
Stampede, but I don't care.
I just hope all my cats will get along with each other. They didn't in life.
At the Rainbow Bridge.
In the afterlife, it's
No one will wet anything.
No. And the dogs I used to have won't chase the cats. And
pure harmony, love and harmony, right?
And even as we're sitting here today, building community, talking about our pets, there's another thing that is a real advantage of having had pets in our lives, because I find like even swapping the stories, even when they're bad stories, they're funny now, but it wasn't so funny at the time. But
Well, I think in our neighborhood, talking about people who walk dogs, it's a community.
Yes.
We all talk to
It
each
is.
other. We all
Yeah.
know each other. We know their dogs' names. We know where they take them if they're going away, and so on. Yeah, it's
very true.
Small community.
yeah, and I think you said you keep treats even for the dogs that walk by, right? So
Yeah. So my front yard is fenced in because I'm often looking after dogs, so I can just let them out. But I have in my porch, I have a whole collection of various doggy treats. And
nice.
if anybody walks by my house with a dog, I go out there and give the dog a treat.
Yes.
And so, of course, I'm meeting literally not hundreds, but many, many neighbors because they all walk by.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, the dogs have incredible memories. I give them a treat once and they remember.
Yes.
So they're dragging their owners back to my property. And the owners tell me this, my dog will not go by your house
Yeah.
without stopping and waiting for this treat.
Yes.
But not only that, when I go for a walk myself, I always carry doggy treats, because if I pass an owner whose dog I've given treats to, the dog starts running towards me and is very disappointed if I don't have a treat for him.
Yes.
So
Oh.
he gets a treat. So it's quite a endeavor for me, and leading to a lot of social interaction, incredible interaction.
Yeah. And if you ever need a dog fix, just go to PetSmart on a Saturday or something, because everyone's in there with their dogs, and you just sort of say, "Oh, what a lovely dog! Can I pet?" And they always say yes, right?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
the next thing you know, you're being all licked and all this sort of stuff, which just brings all those lovely pheromones, and you get all,
Yes.
you get all lovely and happy. Well, I think we've come to the end of our chat. I've really enjoyed this. I think that it's such a wonderful thing to be able to have animals in your life. And I have really enjoyed the chat today. So thanks, Nadia. And for our listeners, we hope you'll come back and hear some of our other ones that's going to be on the Students of Aging podcast for seniors, teaching other seniors about issues that are important to them.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing content every week. If you want to catch more of our adventures, check out the videos right here on our YouTube channel. And remember to leave a comment below. Let us know what you think or what you'd like to see next. We love hearing from you. Catch you in the next one.
On the next episode, Aging and the Immigrant Experience.
There's a lot of complex issues. So especially with immigrant families, right? I mean, depending on your age of immigration. So if you come to Canada younger, you're able to integrate a lot better.